Welcome to The Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ashley Williams, and I am so excited to be on the show. Kiss a Man in a Christmas Sweater. It's the longest Hallmark movie title of all time, but I think it's very apt. Apparently, there is a saying that you should never kiss a man in a Christmas sweater, and my character, who is a second grade teacher, comes in contact with a man wearing a very ugly Christmas sweater and is drawn to him, but also a bit deterred by his outfit. And then by accident, she does slam him in the head with a Christmas tree and knock him unconscious and break his wrist. She feels horrible, and out of shame and guilt, she volunteers her guest house as a place that he can stay because now he can't travel for Christmas as he was supposed to. And then they start liking each other. Sweaters are fabulous. I am, especially since the pandemic, I think I've really become a sweatshirt person. Sweatshirts and sweaters and big, comfy, oversized items that just make me feel like I'm at home, which I am, have become my sort of love language. So I think anything ugly and anything warm, that's really, I think, what matters most in life. Well, Maggie really works with children. So she's a second grade teacher. And this particular Christmas, she has volunteered at the military base to hang out and help organize events and holiday activities for the kids whose parents are away for the holidays. So it's kind of a big job, but one that she loves and has done before. But that means that when Niall Matter's character ends up coming in to volunteer with her, you know, they have a lot to connect over because they end up kind of changing the kids' lives around Christmas, which is really a bit magical. And, you know, in terms of like how I relate to Maggie, I mean, I have two little kids. They're like one room away watching Hotel Transylvania. You know, seeing the holidays through our kids' eyes is a really different thing. You know, I've always loved Christmas, but once I had children and introducing them to the magic of the holidays really shifted my perspective on that time of year and woke me up a bit to how amazing it is, you know. I mean, it was funny, you know, our first Christmas with kids, with one, we started with just one. We have two now. But yeah, you know, the first thing that was kind of tricky was like the Christmas the ornaments for the tree come out of the attic or out of storage. And they're all like these little sculptures and statues and little pieces of art that in some, you know, instances have come from my grandmother made one or I grew up with it or whatever. And they all kind of mean something, which is a really cool story to tell a child. But what you're doing is taking out a toy and hanging it on a tree in front of them and telling them that they can't play with it, which is pretty cruel. So that was honestly like, that was like the first challenge was like, no, like don't touch the lights, don't pull over the Christmas tree, don't destroy the ornaments that are sort of family heirlooms, you know. But I do love being able to tell the kids, you know, the stories of where the ornaments came from and how they came into my life and what I remember about the ornaments from when I was a kid and all that stuff is really, really cool. And I really love that. We did do Elf on the Shelf, and the Elf on the Shelf his whole job was just to mind the tree. And we'd be like, the Elf on the Shelf is watching, you know, like don't touch the tree because he'll tell on you, you know. First movie together, I've always loved him. You know, I knew him from before Hallmark movies. I've always sort of watched him and thought he was kind of a star. And then when Hallmark snapped him up, I got really excited. And then getting to actually do a movie with him was the best. I mean, he's so funny. We have kids the exact same age, so it was a lot of like anecdotes about how he made it through the night. And He's got a very crazy skill for telling really good stories from his life. So, we would look ahead at the schedule and I'd be like, ooh, we've got a long day tomorrow. Save me up a good story for that, hours where we're going to be shooting one scene. And it would take 8 hours for him to tell me one really good story. So that was a really fun little game we came up with. I mean, Niall and I, for some reason, whenever we were in a car, there's like 3 or 4 scenes in this movie where we're in a car together. And every time we were in a car, for some reason, it was like we would put the crew would be outside the car and we'd be inside the car having our own little drama inside the car where we were talking about something that had absolutely nothing to do with the scene. And every time we do a car scene, we just could not stop laughing because we'd literally forget that we were shooting a movie and they'd be like, action. We'd be like, what scene are we doing? Because it was very easy to get distracted when Niall's around because he's just like truly an entertainer and just made me laugh so hard. And especially anytime you see a car scene, just know it took 3 times as long as it should have to shoot that scene because we couldn't stop laughing. Intense rhythm to that. Like initially the crew starts laughing and then after like the second or third time they're like, okay, stop. And then that's the moment when you like really can't. It's so bad. It's bad. It's unprofessional. It's horrible. But sometimes, I don't know if we actually get to that place. Like Niall and I were pretty good about being like, pull it together. But it was very challenging shoot. Honestly, I think my chemistry with Niall in this movie was really special. We had like this really fun poppy rhythm with each other where it was very funny. Like it was almost, we kept saying like, it almost feels like moonlighting. Like we're just sort of finishing each other's sentences and it was very quick, very fast. They had to add in extra scenes because Niall and I kept talking so fast for the comedy. They were worried the movie was going to be too short. So I'm excited for people to see that kind of like patter, which Nina Weinman was our writer, and she did such a good job, writing really truly like witty, funny dialogue that I was very grateful for. It was that I think people are going to love. We had a lot of, it's sort of like improv-ish where like we were doing the scene where I'm jogging and Niall is sitting on the bench, Niall's sitting on the bench and I run up to him, to his character, and we're talking about, the magic of possibility. And as I'm jogging away after our conversation, he says, watch out for those trees, because I knocked him unconscious with a Christmas tree. And after one of the takes, I was like, you should say, as I'm running away, you should say they come out of nowhere. He's like, oh, good. And then he said it in the next one, and then they kept it in the movie. And then there was another thing, like the very end of the movie, Niall has this big suitcase because he comes back, he's on his way to the airport. Well, I don't want to give the whole thing away, but watch out, because the very last moment of the movie was an improv. Niall left something out on the porch and he comes back out to get it. And he sort of did that to be silly on the day. And then they kept it in the movie because it was kind of funny. I really love doing the Christmas and Evergreen movies. I just finished the 4th one last week with Rukia and Holly Robinson Peete and Barbara Niven. And, I have to say those movies, for me, I had a 3-month-old when we shot the first one, and he was always on set with me. My baby is my second born, who's watching TV right next door. And I was nursing him, and I was so tired, and I was so stressed out. And, I had Barbara Niven and Holly Robinson Peete and Rukia Bernard, who were veteran moms and who'd, nursed themselves. And they had such wise advice and such sort of a calming maternal, not maternal necessarily, but feminine presence for me. And they've become these touchstones for me in motherhood. And I think that means that every time I go back to Evergreen, it's a place where I feel safe and at home and surrounded by women, which is my favorite place. So that's what makes Evergreen really special to me. tell you, it's shot in Burnaby Village, which is like 12 minutes from my house right here. And it's this sort of old, it's a sort of a museum town. And it looks, like the 1920s with the storefronts, and they've really done a lot to preserve it. And you can go and take tours, and so they sort of evergreenify it a bit. But Burnaby Village is here in Vancouver. If anybody wants to come visit, this is where I am, and it's really does have the feel of Evergreen. It's awesome. Yeah, totally. It's so cool. So the next installment of Evergreen revolves completely around Holly Robinson Peete and Rukia Bernard. They are numbers 1 and 2 on the call sheet. They are the female leads of this movie. It's a two-hander. That makes me so proud because they're both amazing women of color, and what Hallmark has done in the spirit of diversity and representation of our audience makes me so proud, and it's about time. Rukia is a star, and I'm so excited for her to go on to star as number 1 in 30 films for Hallmark, because she brings such a warmth and genuine kindness and curiosity and spirit to her character, and I'm just so excited to see her do more. But anyway, that's really exciting. I think we're at kind of a bit of a crazy time right now in the world, and I find so much comfort from women helping other women, and essentially that's what this movie is about. Holly Robinson Peete is getting married, and Rukia is helping her plan her wedding and work with it, and Holly's sort of helping Rukia's character with Hannah is her character's name. Work with the Christmas museum for Evergreen. So it's the two of them sort of helping each other out in their own private ventures and being there for each other. And I just can't imagine a more perfect story for right now. Every year I get the call and I'm like, seriously get to go back? It's, again, I have a small little part. I worked on the movie for about a day and a half, but I got to be there. I got to see my red truck and see all my old friends. It was awesome. My first movie for Hallmark was a movie called October Kiss, where I played a babysitter named Poppy. And I had these 2 kids that I had been charged with, and their mother had passed away a few years ago. And my job was to give them a really good Halloween. And I had such a good time shooting that movie. I think I was a bit of a nightmare to work with because I just kept coming up with all these ideas that were not in the script. And everyone was like, can you just say the lines? Which was pretty classic. But it turned out to be like a very funny, offbeat movie, because my character Poppy was creative and strange and interesting and larger than life. And I think that's what, allowed the kids to kind of open up to her. So it was great. And I had such a good experience with it. And now they show it every year and I get letters from people, and, it makes me really happy. Yeah, I've known Brad Paisley for like 20 years. It's at this point, he's like my really silly, funny brother-in-law. The thing that weirds me out, I think, sometimes is when we go to see him in concert, and I'll see him up on a stage and I'm like, whoa, like this guy's like a big deal. And then I'll see him afterwards and I'll be like, oh, it's just Brad. And then I'll start making fun of him again. But, he's a really good brother-in-law. Like there's been a couple of times in my life when I've been like truly scared, and he's the first person I call. Very grounding and very sort of like masculine about him that makes me just be like, Brad, what are we supposed to do? Like when the panic hit and we didn't have anywhere to go, I called Brad and I was like, I need help. I don't know what to do. I have 2 children. I can't go back to New York City to our tiny little apartment. What do I do? Help me. And he was like, I'm on it. And he like arranged to have groceries taken to us and hooked us up. He gave us his house to stay in. And, he's just one of the most like generous, kind people. When we're not making fun of each other, which is most of the time, we'll end up being in these sort of serious family conversations, and he's so loyal, so kind, and I don't know what I would do without him. And I'm glad I don't have to think about it, because it's way more fun to just make fun of him. Oh, well, I guess I just want to say thank you so much for continuing to watch. Without you, I would have no career. So please, tell your friends, call your aunts, your uncles, your grandmas, tell them to watch the Hallmark Channel this Christmas. We've got a lot of really, really exciting stories to tell at a time when I think this country needs nothing more. So I can't wait to see you there.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.